Morning at 10 TV, a very good morning. I'm Arnold Sagawa. It's just 29 minutes to 8 a.m. Let's shift gear and talk about mining. We were shocked a few years ago when Uganda's gold exports actually surged, if I should say, exponentially. But news that is coming to us is the fact that in the process of gold mining, some people, artisanal miners, are using something that is quite synonymous with thermometers, mercury. But the other thing is mercury can be quite dangerous to the human body. To help us try and unpack this particular technicality is Enoch Nimpamanya, who is a director and research fellow, should I say, at the Action Coalition on Climate Change. Enoch, thanks for making time to speak to us.
Good morning to you.
Mercury, if we go way back, like I said earlier on, many people are they just know mercury for being in thermometers and being quite heavy, should I say. I understand people actually use it in gold mining. How does that work together?
Yes, mercury is a substance that helps in the gold purification process, because after doing the mining deep under the earth, the surface, they get the rocks, they crush them. Now, at that stage, when they are supposed to get gold, different particles are scattered in the dust particles, and therefore they have to apply mercury in the form of a liquid, but it is a heavy metal. Then once they apply this mercury in the water containing the other dust particles which they have mixed, then it amalgamates, because it works like a magnet. It attracts the different particles of gold, and that is what we call gold amalgamation. So it is at that stage that mercury is applied in the gold mining.
Our biggest problem in the region, and I would go as far as saying much of sub-Saharan Africa, is artisanal mining, and we've just failed to add value and just move this to the next level. Give me a sense of what the options could be, if we are not going for such options that are quite rudimentary, if I could put it plainly.
Yeah, that's interesting. But before the options, you needed to really, you said I needed to unpack this. We needed to know, is this mercury dangerous? Is it something comparing before we adopt the alternatives? And I would aptly say yes. In the process of gold extraction, once they apply mercury, you'll find that it affects virtually everything: the environment, human health, living organisms, etc. Mercury, once released into the environment, can last for a minimum of 100 years, while it is killing every living organism. Remember, mercury is transboundary. You may assume to be safe here because you are not living in Muvendo, Busia, or Buhejo, where this activity is taking place. But mercury is transboundary. It can go through the dust particles, and it can be transported to pristine places using different processes. It can also go through the food chain, so that if you buy matoke which is contaminated with mercury, say from Movenda, and you eat it from Kampala here, you'll also be able to get the same side effects or the same conditions.
Well, what side effects are
associated with mercury? Some of them include: one, it will affect the entire immune system. It will end up affecting your brain. And in most cases, we've seen instances where people have reported memory loss. You find a child cannot even perform at school because he can't recall what he has been taught. Memory loss among the children, including the adults. It can contribute to miscarriages, especially so among the pregnant women. That's why under international guidelines like Minamato Conventions, you need the guidelines of 2012. Pregnant women are not supposed to be in the gold mining, but in Uganda they continue to practicing the activity using the mercury because they have to survive. So mercury is such dangerous that if it can affect your kidneys, it will affect the lungs, it will end up affecting virtually everything. The gastrointestinal tract system, all those will be affected. So virtually it affects the whole of your respiratory system. So you'll find people have reporting asthma cases, not knowing that they're associated with these cancer cases, but at the end of the day, it can contribute to death. Something interesting for you is that once you have mercury into your body and it has accumulated up to certain levels, there is no cure for it. You will, it is, AIDS might be better because some people are using drugs. In Uganda, virtually, we don't have drugs that can help people who have issues to do with mercury. And the tests for mercury are such expensive that it's not like malaria, whereby you pay 5,000 and you're good to go. But here you have to pay less than, not less than $100 for you to be tested for mercury levels.
So hypothetically, if you are tested for mercury and they find that you're above, well, I wouldn't even go as far as thinking that there's a normal level that us humans are supposed to be okay with having the heavy metal mercury in our bodies. If you are tested and they find you, well, it's over and above what it should be, what then could be the way forward? Is there a way to counter it? Should I start there?
No, once you have it in your body, there is no way to counter it. The best option is if you can be supported to go abroad. There are medical facilities that can help you minimize on the threat that it poses to your health, but not to say that they will get it out of your body. That cannot happen. Once it is in you, it is within you. It causes even impotence among some men, and it contributes to infertility. Many people have attested to this in different gold mining sites. You'll find people shaking, having their bodies shake like this. You find somebody shaking like this, more or less like Parkinson condition. But we've not tested these people to ascertain completely to say that this is mercury, but it is known scientifically world over that it mercury does this. And Uganda, interestingly, is a signatory to the Minamata Convention at 2013, which virtually bans mercury because they have given a timeline for factories that produce mercury, or for people who deal in mercury to have ended that activity within the span of 5 years. Uganda is a signatory. Other countries have abandoned altogether the use of mercury. It is only for us in Uganda, people never minded because they didn't know the dangers that this metal causes to their health and the environment. You'll also find that where mercury is being applied, snakes will not be there. They are too sensitive. Once they smell it, they run away. Mosquitoes will not be there. So if somebody was curious, he would ask why. These reptiles are not in this place. So mercury is such a dangerous thing.
Enoch, one thing that really strikes me is the fact that yes, there's the Minamata Convention 2013, as you were saying. It was signed. We are signatories. I'm sure we've even ratified. I would go as far as saying that. Then where is the ministry? Where's the Ministry of Minerals, Energy? Where are they in this particular conversation? Is it just something that they signed and they put up there in their cupboard and it's just collecting dust? Are there any ways that they're actually looking to morph the industry away from mercury, or it's just something that they did and they moved on?
Yeah, coincidentally, we are engaging the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development together with the regulator, NEMA. They take cognizance of the fact that this mercury is dangerous as
that's not good enough. What I'm asking is, they already signed. So by the time you sign something, it's not just signing a contract to deliver pineapples. You've signed a convention, so they clearly knew what they were signing. So why then would there need to be advocacy to educate them on what they signed?
You see, that is a lacuna in terms of the implementation. When you look at the implementation of the Minamata Convention, we've not had it here. That's why, like, you'll find different stakeholders, like the NGOs, are the ones which are advocating for the implementation and domestication of the Minamata Convention, or having legislation that would, attendant legislations that would help in actualizing what Minamata provides for. But unfortunately, our government has not been that committed. We don't see the implementation infrastructure that relates to the Minamata.
So we are given 5 years to to migrate the industries and make them
for mercury, yeah.
Yes, away from mercury and be at par with the best practices across the world. And 8 years later, 7 years later, that's really not happening. Is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Let's touch on yet another issue, which would be policy recommendations regarding mercury use. What could be the options? And in light of that, are there any factories that you could actually point out that this is definitely not doing the right thing? Maybe this one is.
Well, you've asked many questions in one, but the most interesting thing is for Ugandans to know that in Uganda we don't have any factory that manufactures mercury. It comes all the way from India, all the way from China. And if you go to the government records, say at the customs, and you ask for the how much mercury that we import into the country that is destined for artisanal gold mining, you don't have that record. Also, the record is scanty. So it is disguised in different merchandise and declared then. It passes through different porous borders and reaches finally to the lowest common man, the poor person who is extracting gold from the rocks. So there are different processes, of course, that apply to different processes and alternatives that we could look at. Recently, we took different members of parliament together with the councillors and the leaders of artisanal miners, plus the miners themselves, into Tanzania, Geita. We wanted to benchmark the best practices from Geita, Tanzania, on how best they have done this without using mercury. And we found that largely they are using processes like centrifuges. They are using flotation methods. They are using processes like gravity concentration, other processes like chlorine. So there are those other alternatives that are available, only that our people here in Uganda have not been exposed to such kind of alternatives. So in terms of the policy recommendations, as we asked, we, as Action Coalition on Climate Change, we recommend that the government expedites the process with regard to the implementation of the Minamata Convention. That is one. The second policy recommendation that we make is we need to strengthen and tighten our borders because we understand that it passes through different porous borders. So if we can have that and have some instruments that can test the different merchandise disguised or having mercury contents in them, then we shall be good to go. Then also the government shouldn't leave this for the civil society organizations. The government should come up with a comprehensive, well laid out program to disseminate information to the public. Tell them, look, mercury is dangerous. Our miners here, this is not good for you. We have this and that for you. So it would be good for the government to have that. Then
right. Just briefly before I let you go, Enoch, about two things you mentioned. One is on the best practices. You know, you go over to Tanzania, and President Magufuli, very, very famously, a few years ago, Acacia Mining, which is, of course, a gold miner in Tanzania, and also a subsidiary of Barrick Gold, which is a Canadian company, also listed on a few stock exchanges across the world. He went very, very tough on the CEO of Barrick Gold. The old man had to actually fly down to Dar es Salaam to see the president. And is it time for us to see some drastic measures of that manner? And second is, I know I'm packing a lot of questions on you. Second would be, when you took the members of parliament over to Tanzania to see some best practices, they see some centrifuges, then what? Are they doing anything, or is it just another sightseeing mission and they get some per diem?
Great. Yeah. In terms of Uganda taking a radical move, yeah, they should have done this yesterday, because as I said, mercury has been applied, and our people are at the risk, if not already threatened by mercury. So we need a radical move, and we adopt other alternatives. We must be clean and adopt the best practices that are applied elsewhere. Then in terms of the members of parliament, we didn't take them, say, for a tour. This wasn't a safari. Rather, it was a benchmarking mission. And when they came back, they even drafted a motion in parliament. Schedule, it was number 8. Although it was not presented, but they have promised us that they are going to table it and have it discussed. So we want something that on the floor of parliament that will inform the policy, and later on implementation of different guidelines and domestication of the Minamata Convention, as I said.
Right. Enoch, many thanks for making time to speak to us. That was Enoch Nimpamia, who is the director and also research fellow at Action Coalition on Climate Change, just walking us through the very complex technicalities and grave side of using mercury in this gold amalgamation and, of course, the artisanal gold mining process. Let's head over to our man on the street, Stephen Bide, to